Hello and welcome to another Macros for Editors video. Today we've got a slightly silly title, Lockdown at Macro Towers. What I'm asking is, when a macro maniac is in lockdown, what happens? Well, the answer to that is you get lots of new macros. So I do have a serious intent today. I want to ask if you can help me, first of all. Then we're going to have a look at some of the macros I've produced in the last 10 days, and then quickly just to look at what's in the melting pot at the moment, what I'm working on. So how can you help me? Well, when you're trying to use some of my macros, if you feel that the documentation is not clear in some way, you can't work out what I'm trying to get you to do, then please ask me. Don't feel that you're being a nuisance by asking, quite the reverse. If you ask me, then I know there's something wrong, I can get it cleared hopefully, and then other people won't make the same mistake as you've made or have the same misunderstanding as you've made. So you'll be saving me time, you'll be saving other people time if you ask me if there's something not clear. And a similar sort of idea really is if there's something that some sort of macro, you wonder if there's a macro to do something particular, again ask me, because you may be sparking me to generate a macro that will be useful to me, and certainly probably to lots of other people as well. So don't be afraid to ask. I'm here to help, and I've got time, and I enjoy it, as you might have noticed. So what have I been working on in the last few days? Well, let's have a look at some new macros. And the easiest way is to look at the instructions, or at least scan over the instructions. So if I bring those in, actually most of these have been done in the last week. Someone wanted to know how many track changes there were in a document, so that's just a very straightforward macro that tells you how many there are. This is one that I had problems with. If you want to get rid of the formatting track changes, I don't know, you know the sort of thing that happens. You are trying to do some editing and you make a change and it suddenly starts saying that such and such formatting has been changed. Sometimes it's spelling. The spelling has been changed to Canadian English or something, and you want to get rid of the track changes which are just for formatting. Well, in the old days, before 365, you could run a macro which displays only the formatting changes. Then you accept all visible track changes, and then you switch the other track changes back on again. Fine. Unfortunately, that does not work with Word 365. They seem to have withdrawn some sort of feature, or withdrawn that feature within 365, and so that's not possible. Okay, I've done it another way, which is fine up to a point, but it actually has to go through every track change, decide if it's a formatting track change, and accept it if it is. So it can take a long time on a large file, so be warned about that. However, you can select a bit of text and run accept formatting 365, and it will work on just the selected text, so that will speed it up if you don't need the whole lot changing. Someone wanted to be able at the beginning of a session to load up a certain set of files that they're going to use for that session, and you repeat it day after day and you need the same files. Okay, could I provide something for that? Yes. I've looked at it in two ways. First of all was to say, well, look, if you use the multi-file text macro just as a starter, so if I run that, it calls up the filer, and you can navigate to the directory, the folder that you want, click cancel, and it will generate a list of all the files in that folder. And you say, no, I don't want to collect all that lot. So you've now got a list of all the files in that folder, so you can get rid of all the ones that are there that you don't want, and leave just the ones that you want to actually load up, because that's what that's giving you is the full name of that folder and then the names of the individual files that are there. So if you save that list then to somewhere in your system, you can load that. If you give it a particular name, I think that's how I did it. Yes, you give it the name my file list. So then the load these files macro goes and loads the file list, looks at the file list, loads all the files that are on that list, and then closes the file list. So it's just a way of pulling up those files. Another way of doing it is what I do when I want to call up the book, copy of the book. So obviously I do that fairly often. So if I run that, then it goes and gets those two particular files and it loads them up, the macros and then the main file. Okay, so let's just move this out of the way a minute. So what that one does then is, this is the actual macro, because you're going to need to play around with this yourself if you want to do it by this method. You've got the address there of where the folder is, and the folder and file there. It actually brings up the file at a particular size, which is useful, and it gives you the zoom percentage. You can set the zoom percentage. So that's another way of pulling up various files. Okay, and what have we got next? So we've done that one. Yeah, okay. Delete all comments. Yes, that was an existing macro, so it will delete any comments in a document that do not have a particular tag in them. In that case, it was AQ, author question. What I was asked for was the other way around. The lady said, please could I make a macro that would delete all comments that have a particular tag in it. So she used 3 asterisks. So then she would put those in sort of temporary comments and then run this macro, and all those comments would then be deleted. But it's not reversible, so make sure that you use that carefully, and watch out for if there are 3 asterisks for some reason or other in another comment which wasn't really meant to be deleted, but that's up to you. Right, the next one, a lady was working and suddenly realized that she had forgotten to switch her timer on, so she didn't know how much time she'd spent on the work. She knew what time it was when she stopped, obviously, but didn't know what time she started or about whether she'd had a break and how long, whatever. Suddenly realized that if she could get a list of all the track changes, they've all got times on them, and therefore she could see what was happening when she'd been editing and when she was not editing. Could I help? Yes, but it's a pretty simple macro to generate, and what it does is it pulls them all out into a new file, all the track changes, so they look like this with the date and time. So that's straight out of the file. Then it creates a copy of that and sorts it into order, which means that you can see them in the actual order. So you can see that the last one there was at 2:18 and then started again at 3:07. So that might be of some use at some stage. And the last is a set of macros, which is several people have been asking about this when I've been doing webinars. They've asked how I've done my slideshows, how have I done my titles, and for that I use a method of hiding the titles by making them grey and then revealing them one by one. So we've got titles hide, which makes all the titles invisible, and then titles show, which makes them all visible, and then titles reveal, which goes through and reveals them one by one. So in this section here, if I use the hide, they all disappear except the ones that you've got there. So I then use titles reveal once, twice, 3 times. So I'm revealing them one by one as I go through. But these other ones here are permanently there because they aren't actually red, blue and black. They're a very slightly different colour from red, blue and black, and therefore they stay on the screen when I hide all the comments. And I've got 3 individual macros, fixed font red, blue and black, but then I thought it would be more helpful in a way to have be able to select. So in other words, if you select some text, then you can make it where are we? So red, blue and black. It goes through the 3 colours, but that colour is even when you reveal and hide, that's a fixed colour. Okay, so those are my 3 my new macros. Let's have a look at some upcoming macros. That was the new macros, upcoming macros. My idea here is that you can email me if you think that any of these are particularly of relevance to you and you'd like to see them given priority. So 365's editor facility, I don't know whether you like it or hate it. It's this thing up here which looks like a bit like a tipped over traffic light to me. Well, for UK listeners anyway. It's for spell checking, I find it's actually quite slow. So I've done, or at least I'm working on, and partly got working, a spell checker macro, so that it's like the old spell checker where you click on it on a word and you run the macro and it starts from there and starts checking the spelling. It doesn't do this thing where it sort of looks at the whole document, tries to decide what spelling mistakes there are and what grammar errors you've made, and then it presents them to you and what do you want to do. No, I want to check the spelling, so it goes straight in and checks the spelling. I think it's going to be faster and more flexible because it's also going to enable you to create an exceptions list, and you can use that when you want to recheck the spelling at the end. If you use spelling error lister, that will tell you all the words that the spell checker thinks are errors, but some of those are not going to be errors, and you can decide which are actually sort of technical words or whatever, or proper nouns, and you can add that to your exceptions list. And then when you run my spell checker, it will use that exceptions list and it won't bother showing you things that you've already said are proper words, they're okay words. So it will be quicker again for that reason. And then when you get to the end of the editing process and you decide you want to recheck the spelling, you can do that by using that exceptions list, and then it will tell you what other words there are that are supposedly spelling errors according to the spell checker. Okay, so I'm working on that one. Citation lister and citation list checker. Okay, the existing version, it will check. It will the lister will find citations that are of the form of those 3 forms. So the 2 were A and B, A and B, or A et al, which is fine, except it doesn't do citations which are multiple names like Smith, Brown and Green. And I gather, I don't use APA, but I gather that in APA you can have up to 6 surnames. So what I'm working on at the moment for someone in India is an APA list citation lister, so it will find all these longer citations. It's actually quite a tricky one because what is, and well, look at that line there. It will think that not Smith, Brown and Green is the citation because that's a capital letter and it looks like a surname. So anyway, I'm working on that. So if you're interested in that, then let me know. I'm working on some improvements to, well, say working, it's on my list of things to do, making some improvements to Smart Finder, having discovered some new techniques from a book that someone recommended on programming in Visual Basic. And similarly, there's the comment add menu. I'm doing some I'm hoping to do some changes to that and to improve that. Okay, that's it for now. If you've got any queries, do email me, and again, if you've got any problems with the documentation or I've got any ideas of new macros, do let me know. Okay, bye for now.